This happened to a real United States warship. Something came out from the bottom of the ocean, bit its steel hull, and disappeared. The Navy closed the case, but the marks are still there, and no one has explained what could have made them. What you are about to hear is documented in the Navy's own records. I am going to show you exactly what they found on the hull, what theories the experts managed, and why, nearly 50 years later, this remains one of the most disturbing unsolved cases of the ocean. But to understand it, we have to go back to that night in 1978. The year 1978, Pacific Coast, off California. The USS Stein was a United States Navy war frigate. Steel, weapons, cutting-edge technology for its time, a ship designed to hunt enemy submarines in the middle of the Cold War. And that night, it was doing just that, a routine mission. Nothing out of the ordinary, until, all of a sudden, the sonar system, the ship's ears underwater, simply stopped working. At first, they thought it was a mechanical failure, a loose cable, a damaged part, something normal. So normal that they didn't even sound the alarm. But the sonar is the most important organ of a warship. Without it, they are blind underwater. So the order was clear: return to port in San Diego and inspect the damage immediately. Because when the USS Stein entered the dry dock and the engineers were finally able to see the underside of the hull, what they had in front of them didn't look like the result of a mechanical failure. It looked like the scene of an attack. The person in charge of the inspection was a petty officer named Ira Carpenter. His job was simple: to check the sonar dome, that huge rounded structure at the front and bottom of the ship, the size of a bus and weighing more than 27 tons. Carpenter expected to find a worn part. What he found left him speechless. The rubber coating of the dome was destroyed, not scratched, destroyed. Deep, long cuts that ran across the surface from end to end. The longest one measured more than a meter from a single swipe. Nearly 8% of the entire surface of the dome was ripped. One of the witnesses described it like this: it looked as if a pack of alligators had lunged at the ship and bitten it with all their might. But they were in deep Pacific waters. There are no alligators there. There shouldn't be anything there capable of doing something like that. And then someone noticed a detail that changed the whole case completely. At the bottom of most of those cuts, there was something stuck, something that didn't belong to the ship. They were teeth, or something very similar to teeth. Dozens of them, curved, sharp, embedded in the steel and rubber with such force that they had been left behind when the creature, whatever it was, pulled away. Think about what that means. The bite was so brutal that the animal lost part of its dentition in the attempt. And yet, the USS Stein, a steel warship, came out damaged from the encounter. The Navy understood that this was no longer an engineering issue. This was biology. And they needed someone who could answer a single question: what kind of creature is capable of biting a warship and leaving its teeth embedded in the steel? They called a naval biologist named F.G. Wood, one of the Navy's most respected experts on sea life. Wood took those teeth and studied them under a microscope, and the first thing he discovered immediately ruled out any fish or shark, because those weren't teeth, not in the normal sense. The teeth of a shark or a fish are made of bone and grow anchored to the jaw. These were different. They were made of chitin, the same hard material that forms the shell of insects. And they didn't grow in a mouth. They grew in rows, along tentacles. Wood reached a conclusion as fascinating as it was disturbing. The creature that attacked the USS Stein was almost certainly a squid, but not just any squid. To leave marks of that size, spaced at that distance, with hooks of those dimensions, this squid would have to be gigantic, larger than any specimen ever documented by science. In fact, Wood said it clearly: if they ever found this animal, it would be one of the largest in history. But here's the detail that keeps this case alive to this day. Wood proposed the giant squid as the most likely explanation. But, and this is key, he never gave it for certain. He himself admitted that he couldn't rule out that it was an undiscovered species, something that science hasn't classified yet. And the questions piled up. If it was a squid, why did it attack a steel warship, which obviously isn't food? One theory says that the animal was dying rose to the surface and clung to the Stein in its final moments. Another theory is even more disturbing. The only known predator of the giant squid is the sperm whale, a massive whale, and it turns out that the USS Stein sonar dome is approximately the shape and size of a sperm whale's head. Is it possible that the squid mistook the ship for its natural enemy and attacked first? There is no way to know, because the creature never appeared. The Navy repaired the dome, replaced the coating, and the USS Stein returned to service as if nothing had happened. In fact, that ship had a long life. It circled the globe, served in several conflicts, and was decommissioned only in 1992. But the teeth, the chitin hooks embedded in its hull, were preserved. They are real, they exist, and they are the only physical proof of an encounter that no one witnessed and that no one has been able to fully explain. The case went from naval archives to legend. It appeared in books, in documentaries, and for many, it became one of the few tangible pieces of evidence that, in the deep ocean, something lives that we still don't know about. And here is where the story stops being just a mystery of the past and becomes something that should make your skin crawl. If Wood's explanation is correct, then down there, in the darkness of the ocean, swims a squid larger than any science has ever seen. A creature with enough force to bite naval steel and leave its mark on a warship. And if Wood was wrong, if it wasn't a squid, then what attacked the USS Stein still has no name. It still has no species. It is still down there, unidentified, waiting. Because the uncomfortable truth is this: humans have mapped the surface of Mars in more detail than the bottom of our own oceans. To this day, we have only explored about 5% of the ocean. The other 95% is unknown territory. And in that 95%, absolutely anything can fit. The USS Stein returned home. The Navy closed the file, but the ocean returned no answers. Was it a giant squid larger than we thought possible? Or was it something that science has yet to find or dares to name? I have my theory, but I want to know yours. What do you think bit the USS Stein that night in 1978? Leave it in the comments. I read them all. And if this story left you wanting more, up here I leave you another real ocean case that will keep you awake at night. Press play, and I'll see you in the next video.